and it let out this blood-curdling, guttural scream.
On the side of the road, he sees a deer carcass and something eating on it, which he thought was a bear. And as the lights hit it, it stood up. And, like, this gives me chills talking about it. He said it stood up and it had the face of a man.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. I'm your host, Brian Sawyer, coming at you. Right now, it's episode 23, and our guest today is Greg Smith. Now, let's talk about Greg a little bit before we invite him in. I met Greg last November. We had a Bigfoots of Michigan, Bigfoots of America town hall meeting here in Sandusky, Michigan. You know, I was really only hoping for about 30 people. And by the end of the day, we had about 75 people coming and going. And the whole idea of the town hall was not to bring the experts in to come speak, but to have the eyewitnesses themselves give their encounters, their sightings, and to talk about how it had affected their life. So Greg is one of the eyewitnesses that had showed up that day, and I was shocked. My mouth dropped open. Some of the things he talked about, one thing in particular, is he is the first person I've ever met that mentioned or the fact that Bigfoot like Mountain Dew. So that blew my mind, and that's what caught my attention. And I'm like, I got to remember this guy. I got to get together with him, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be getting together. This is going to be one of a couple of podcast shows he does. I'll be inviting him back a ton. We're going to get out a couple of times between now and September and do an episode for the Bigfoots of Michigan TV pilot series. And Greg is spectacular. He has been a researcher for over 40 years. He has 200 plus sightings and encounters. So, yeah, and Greg is from Hell, Michigan, so he's a Michigan native. And, man, I am just so happy to have him, on our show today. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Greg into the show. Hey, Greg, you there?
Yeah, I am here, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, Greg. Well, first of all, I want to thank you once again for being patient with me. The project I'm doing between the TV pilot series and the podcast show has kept me really busy, but you've been very patient with me playing phone tag and all of that. But now, you're on deck, brother. You are one of I got about 5 primary people I'm getting together with, and you're one of those. So I'm just looking at some of the things we've talked about, some of the things you said in the town hall meeting, like I mentioned, how Bigfoot like Mountain Dew, you discovered that. You've had 200 plus sightings and encounters, over 40 years of research. You're a Michigan native from Hell, Michigan. And man, just so happy and thankful that you've been patient with me. And now it's time, man. It's time for you to talk. So why don't we kind of rewind back to what first got you interested in Bigfoot? Were you a kid? Were you like me and you watched In Search of with Leonard Nimoy? How did this all kind of roll out for you? How did it all transpire and got you rolling and into this?
Just like a Gen X, it was In Search of. And I think the real one was Boggy Creek, the movie, and my aunt lived near Boggy Creek in Arkansas. I'm sorry. And she had her own experience of something walking out behind her house. And my Aunt Doris is the one I think actually pushed me, just telling her the story of it. Here I have somebody, and actually, I know that actually had an encounter of some kind. I mean, it could have been a deer, it could have been a possum, it could have been anything. So, but in my little mind, and she's saying it was a possible Bigfoot. I'm like, hey, my aunt don't lie, so, and I think that's what pushed me over the edge. Was
Fantastic.
and I mean, she lived in the middle of God's country in Arkansas, and I mean, there was I think 10 miles surrounded her, but nothing but woods. So I mean, it was, but they wouldn't let me go run because of all the rattlesnakes.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. Arkansas.
Um, and so that kind of and then getting into high school and middle school where you could go to the library and look at books and read up on this stuff. It's like, oh my God, they actually have books on Bigfoot. And
Right.
then when I hit 16, I had I called him my grandfather, Jim Lay. He told me a story about two cops here in Livingston County in the 50s that got their cars, two different cop cars got attacked by Bigfoot on Bull Run Road. So that was like, okay, I'm 16, I have my own car, let's go find Bigfoot. But I mean, I ran Pygmy Wreck, and I never thought they would be in there as a teenager. I thought it was an out west thing or up
Okay.
north thing. And it took me probably, until I realized it. I think I didn't, when I came back from Kentucky after I retired from corrections, because I
Okay.
had, we moved away from hell. I went to college, and then I moved, all the things you do when you're 20.
Right.
But I still done it. I did a little bit like that sighting we had out in Monroe. We were
Yeah.
actually investigating a sighting out there in the 90s. And we got a strange smell. So we drove a mile away from the smell and came back, and the smell was gone.
Okay.
But we never got out because it's all private property.
Okay.
At 2 a.m, out there at that in the 90s, you'd have got shot. It was all farm country.
Mm-hmm.
But really my, and then when I moved down south, that really ramped up to all my research. Well, then I wouldn't call it research, but yeah, that started, really going to, trying to call them in, trying to get them to interact with us. And the funniest thing was, my biggest and best sighting down there was, I wasn't even looking for a Bigfoot. I was actually on my way to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going down, my ex-wife called these roads paved cow paths. I mean, it was a 2-track with asphalt on it. So I'm driving 11:30 at night to work in this big, I had a Ford Ranger, 99 Ford Ranger.
Okay.
This thing stepped out in a curve. I actually had to jerk over to I thought it was a buffalo, but it was too tall to be a buffalo. I mean, it had the long hair. It wasn't, the head was above my truck. So, and I got to work, and one of my coworkers was like, Greg, come on, dude, you're a Bigfoot researcher. That was a freaking Bigfoot. If it's taller than your vehicle and that side of 64 has no buffaloes in it, it's got to be a Bigfoot, Greg. I said, you know what? I to this day, I don't know what I seen.
Okay.
I mean, I'm my biggest skeptic. I mean, if I can't say 100% what I seen, I'm not going to say it.
Mm.
But I mean, like, basically, and I come back here, and after I retired and really started getting into the Bigfoot community. Before that, it was just me and buddies.
Okay.
I mean, I've been in some deep Kentucky hollers looking for them, and it's a lot easier in Michigan to find them than it is down there because there's
Without a
so much
doubt.
people.
Without doubt, I was down in Slump, Kentucky, by Hazard, Kentucky. You're exactly right. I prefer
What
I
what
prefer
what town?
Michigan any day.
What town? Because my grandparents were in Hazard.
Yeah, well, look at, I don't know if you can see it right here on the wall is the key to the city of Hazard. When we went down and filmed, the mayor gave us a key to Hazard, but it was right next door, not far away. Slemp, Kentucky is where we were at.
Slimp, Kentucky. Okay.
Yeah,
Um.
just outside of Hazard.
Okay, because I damn don't be familiar, but my mom grew up down there, so she would know where it's at.
Okay, okay.
Um. But Kentucky has a lot of forgotten villages and towns in those steep hills.
Them coal mining
And
towns. Whew.
yeah, but and I want to kind of address something too. These people talk about wild men or wild people or feral. Actually, I think they're calling them feral peoples.
Yes, feral people.
They're not feral. They're just hill people.
Okay,
They, and my mom and I we seen an episode of some show, and we were both looking at each other laughing. She goes, "They're feral people. If they're in the Appalachians, they're just regular people. I mean, they're just
okay,
living off the grid." So if
okay.
you ever
Well,
hear that
interesting.
coming out of the South, it's just feral people.
Okay, yeah, I
Now,
do hear that. Actually, because I have friends who do believe that the feral people are real down there, all through Tennessee, North Carolina. Yeah, but anyways, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, they're down there. I mean, and so I mean, I had relatives down there that lived off the grid without no phone.
Wow.
Um, you'd have to drive up a creek to get to them, and everybody's like, no, it's just how they choose to live. I mean, look at the big push on YouTube. Let's go live off the grid.
Yep.
I wouldn't call what those people on YouTube do living off the grid compared to what the people do down there that I know.
Right.
But I mean, the feral people are getting, the hill people or whatever you want to call them are getting thin because nobody wants to live like that anymore.
Okay.
They don't get medical attention. They're, they want the luxuries of modern life. Who wouldn't want, a phone to carry around, um, you know, who wouldn't want to go to McDonald's. But yeah, my mom would talk. She said she had a friend that would come out of the hills to play with her.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
understandable.
but anyways, so this is more Bigfoot than feral people. So let's get back to Bigfoot. But yeah, like I said,
That's
I
okay.
mean, um, so when I got back up here, I had a buddy of mine and actually a coworker, and he was like, "No, no, Greg, there's no Bigfoots up here." I said, "I bet you I can go find one for you." So we went to Picnic Wreck, and the first night, I had both my daughters with me. One was 7, and I think the other one was 9. And the first night we had that tree knock, he was hooked. He was like, "Oh my God, Greg, now I believe." And then that group, there was a group of 3. It was a male, a female, and a juvenile. Um, we actually interacted with them for about 2 or 3 years.
Oh wow.
Um, the fifth, sixth encounter I had with them, or well, I wouldn't say sighting because I didn't see any of them, but I was actually I ran a gas station, so I would take expired food out there to them. Granola bar, Snickers, whatever.
Hmm.
So we set up a base gifting spot, bait station, whatever you want to call it. And I had a rig so the coons couldn't get to it. Raccoons couldn't get to it. So I'm setting this stuff up. This is 11 o'clock at night. Um, it's probably 50 yards off the off a dirt road, off the fire trail. So I'm out there. I'm setting this food up. All of a sudden, I hear probably a 6-inch tree just starts shaking. Then from kind of basically at 3 points, I had 3 Bigfoots in a pyramid kind of formation.
Oh wow.
One was army crawling towards me. The male and the female. I don't know which ones were shaking the trees. I'm assuming the big one was the male was shaking the bigger tree. Was shaking the trees Well, I called my buddy. He was actually working at our other store. One of my friends at in law enforcement, I can't say the department, was there with them. So they put me on speakerphone, and I was like, "Hey, Dave," I said, "this is my location. You might have to come save my ass."
Oh,
He was like, and he hears it. He goes, "Greg, can you get out of there?" I said, "Yeah, I can get out of here. I ain't worried about it." But what they do, and I wanted this point because a lot of people might see this and say, "Hey, I want to go try researching." I tell my first statement is, don't do it unless you know the woods and how to survive. Because if anything ever happens in that woods, especially in the winter, you got a matter of minutes before the environment gets you. You know, I was
yep,
right. I mean, I ran picnic wreck all my life, so I was raised in the woods. I'd go down to Kentucky, run the woods in Kentucky. Growing up, because my grandparents were down there.
right,
So a lot of the stuff I do, I'm comfortable with doing because I've done it before.
right.
But that being said, I just kind of want to put everybody a warning up. You know, I do. If you want to go do it, go try. Just don't leave the trails and know
Yeah,
your environment. And damn sure make sure you tell a person your exact GPS where you're going to be. Get get one of the apps. Download an app. Let your family members have that so they can see where you're at. So if you do get hurt. But that being said, okay. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, I ain't going to get out of here alive, you know. Well, they stop. So I hurry up and get to my truck. And after that, you know, and I left because there weren't no more interactions. I come back about a week later with another researcher, and he beat me to the spot. And my ranger was a radar trap. He said when those Bigfoot heard that ranger coming down the road, they came running to that spot. They were looking forward to actually interacting with me every time. I was like, um, I was like, really? He goes, yeah. I can't say any of those researchers' names because but yeah, I was like, yeah, yeah. He goes, I can't believe they were running like that. I was like, okay. I said, well, I haven't fed them in a couple weeks, so maybe that's why. But yeah, they would actually come up and interact. We had one. We hiked in. Me and the coworker. We hiked in and we went down the Soul Trail and it goes into where a bunch of cabins are, and they look like Friday the 13th houses. So we take this deer trail, and this is midnight. So we're going in there, and all of a sudden we hear this freaking thing coming from the other side of coming. We were walking east, and this thing was heading west towards us, breaking the brush. So I take off, and I'm pushing. This guy's 300 pounds, maybe
okay.
350, and I'm pushing him out the way. I'm literally pushing him, and as soon as we hit the road, what I was following stopped. Because I turned around, I said, "Okay, dude," I told my friend, "I'm like, we're not getting out of this. We got to fight." As soon as we
Ooh.
turned around, whatever was bluff charging us stopped and stood in the woods and two little pebbles over our heads. Yeah.
So was it just
So
trying to intimidate you to get out? So you had, okay, let me go back for something. I think this is so cool because I'm starting to experience this as well, not at your level, but one or two Bigfoot clans are getting a little bit familiar with me. So
yeah,
I'm getting some positive reactions, like they don't mind me finding their footprints or just kind of evidence of them. So your clan, though, is that they would hear your Ford Ranger coming, recognize the sound of your truck, and then come running because you had fed them, or some people call it gifting, and so they
yeah,
came running to the spot where you had done that prior.
yeah. I mean, I at that point, I think I had been doing it over a year then. I
Oh,
mean,
gotcha.
this wasn't no, every other weekend, doing it for a month and they were doing, this was a year long process.
Okay. Okay.
And I mean, we didn't go out. I would go out every Wednesday and put food out, but to actually interact, I would only go out with another researcher every 2 weeks.
Okay. So it's not
Um,
to impose too much. So you're not out there.
yeah,
I would think you wouldn't want to be out there too much either. It's like walking into somebody's living room. You're going to piss them off.
yeah. I mean, that's but you got to realize these. Okay, if you actually make it entertaining for them, they enjoy it. So we
Awesome.
actually always try to make it entertaining. We talk to them. And a lot of times we don't even call for them. We sit down and the last people, well, the new group that I got to put together to do research with me, I kind of jumping ahead, but I took them on. I'm like, listen, they're like, what do we need? Do we need hiking shoes? Blah blah blah. I'm like, no. I said we're gonna walk 100 feet into the woods and sit down and bullshit. Pardon my French, but
Fantastic.
I mean because that will actually draw them in. Granted, the area I had picked, you see the photos of the dead deer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought the Bigfoot was actually pulling them in. I don't know if I touched base with you on this one, but those photos were just half the story. I went around to the other side because I mean we had no interaction at that spot. So we went around. I went around like 2 weeks later onto the other parking area, and there was probably 10 dead turkeys, 10 dead deer, just bones scattered everywhere. Basically,
Whoa.
I call the game warden because
Okay.
that became a dumping spot of something,
Gotcha.
and it wasn't. Bigfoots don't do that. I mean, literally, there was carcasses. Just you could tell that whoever did it just shot him and left him there. I mean, the tenderloins were still there, the back straps were still there, the breast meat off the turkey was still there. I mean, they
Okay.
just. So I told the game warden, I'm like, listen, you got a serial poacher out here. And she was like, I'll go check it out, but I never heard nothing more about it. Um, so it's probably because I told her I was like, it's funny because you ever want to see a big game warden squirm? Ask them about Bigfoot or start talking about Bigfoot. They, um, I got an interesting story. I'll say that for a little bit. Remind me to tell you about Alpina. But anyways,
Okay.
let's get back to the Crooked Lake Bigfoots. I mean, that area is so overflooded with researchers right now. There's no more Bigfoots left in there.
Yeah, I would
Um,
think they would move out of an area if there's too many people.
I mean, I went over there and I'm not trying to scare people away from Picnic Wreck, but I went probably I delivered something out there to Half Moon Beach and I stopped at Pickerel Lake and I just pulled in, just kind of take a smoke break and there was probably 4 different groups of Bigfoot researchers. And people are like, how
Wow.
do you know they're Bigfoot researchers? I'm like, it's old dude in camo and it's not gun season.
You're
And they're
so
like,
right.
seriously? I said, these guys, they can't even walk a mile, but yet they'll go out there and they'll research and say they've seen Bigfoot during the day. I'm sorry, you know, to see a Bigfoot during the day down in southeastern Michigan is very rare. I
Yeah.
mean, you more likely to see one while you can get them coming on at night, but during the day, they're smart enough not to come around you. I mean, they can smell you a mile away.
Oh yeah, smell, see, hear. Let's go back to the. I'm writing notes as you talk. So you had the clan that reacted positively to you, come running when they hear your truck. But then let's go back to the one that bluff charged you, but then stopped and then just threw pebbles over your head. Was he trying to intimidate you at first, or
Actually, I can't remember if that happened. Uh, that happened before I started baiting. It's in the same area where the 3 were. So I think that was actually the Mel.
yeah, yeah,
Let's call that group A.
okay,
Um, I never gave them a name. After that, I started naming the different squatches. I mean, I have one, Blondie, and I got one called Grumpy. And it's just how I portray them when I first have my sightings.
Okay.
And then I have a female that I call Screamer because she'll come up the path behind you and start screaming,
Oh
or get in
wow.
front of you and start screaming. Um, so it depends on how they react. I mean, the three group there, the family group, they never did really. I mean, that bluff charge was the first time we pushed into their area, and I think they weren't. They try to scare you to see how you will react, and I think it's more to see if you have bad intentions by pulling out a weapon, because people
Okay.
are, um, and I don't carry. I mean, I don't carry out in the woods. Yeah, I mean, you got a flashlight at night, and you're carrying a gun, even though I have a concealed weapons permit. And that's all kinds of red flags.
Okay.
And southeastern Michigan, especially picking right, there ain't nothing in that freaking woods that'll go kill you.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree.
I mean, I don't know about you guys in the Thumb area. I don't know if you guys have
No.
bear up there or not.
No, no. We had, I think the last sighting that I know of was a bear in Memphis, but then they corralled that and got it out of the area from my understanding. So yeah, nothing. I can speak for the thumb. There has been an occasional cougar sighting, but that was a few years ago. But yeah, nothing threatening, and more than likely they're going to run from you. You know, they're solitary and they're trying to get out of the area if they see humans.
Yeah, especially the black bears. I mean, but you know, so, but let's move on. Kind of, so and then I've it's different. I mean, like I said, I want to touch base with you because I want to kind of jump to the Tim thing because that's
Yeah,
fresh in my mind.
yeah.
Now I
Tim
catch the
Dills.
whole thing because I was kind of doing three different things at once when I heard that, and I actually jumped back and listened. Now he said he believes that they managed the deer.
Right.
Okay, I agree to that, but see, most people don't know this. An old timer taught me this: is when you shoot at a deer only runs a mile circle, and he will circle back to you. Their territory is only a group of deer will only travel a mile, so there's no big reindeer herd of white-tailed deers going anywhere. They stay in that one little area. So a Bigfoot owner only have to move 3 miles to get fresh deer.
Okay.
Which I think they do because I've noticed like the family of three, they just came after 2 years of interacting with them, they just disappear. No more interaction. So that made sense to me that they're going to go. They don't want to put a strain on that little area, so they move to go find more deer. Um, Now where they moved to, I really don't know. I couldn't catch back up with them, but about the time they moved out is when we discovered Grumpy on the other side about 2 miles away from them.
Okay.
So I don't know if
Grumpy.
it was Grumpy.
Okay.
Um, the only reason I named him Grumpy was Bob Dangle. I know you know Bob Dangle.
Yeah, yeah. Met him at the
Um,
town hall meeting. So such a privilege.
you need to get an interview with him.
Okay.
But anyways,
Right.
so what happened was, me and Jeremy, I can say his name. He won't talk to me anyways. But Jeremy was my coworker. So we're out walking Pickerel Lake, on the Potawatomi Trail. We go by, we get up to where it goes over Pickerel Lake, little bridge, and I've got my fat a chow chow with me, 85-pound chow.
Oh yeah.
Um, so we start heading back. We hear this scream, and we're like, okay. So we get off the bridge, and on the bridge, when you come off the bridge, the Potawatomi. We came from the left side of the right side of the bridge. We were
Okay.
going from west to east. Okay, to get back to the truck, we had to go back west.
Uh-huh.
So, but something told us, something in my mind, in Jeremy's mind, and we're told, we actually got this unwritten. Anything happens to us, don't say a word, like if you feel a strange feeling. Not till we get back to the truck. And I'll go into that in a little bit.
Okay.
So, at this time, I didn't know Jeremy got zapped, but I got zapped because I wanted to go left, which I was kind of disoriented. Well, my dog pulled us to the right way.
Okay.
So as we're going up this little hill, I look over and I'm still kind of disoriented, but I see these tree breaks. I'm like, Jeremy, let's stop and take photos. Photo 1, photo 2 was okay. Photo 3, freaking grumpy, freaking starts throwing shit at us. Actually, he
Whoa.
growls. I take that. He growls. Photo 4, and I'm only telling you 4 photos, okay? And then all hell broke loose. So we're freaking pushing on the trail trying to get back because he's paralleling us. And I mean, it looks like he sounds like a bulldozer going through there at 100 miles an hour. And he's just throwing stuff, ripping trees up, breaking branches. We get out there, and I'm like, Jeremy, what the hell happened with that Bigfoot? He goes, I don't know. So we start flipping through the photos I took, and there's eye shine. That Bigfoot was 25 feet away from us.
Whoa.
So when I took the photo with the phone, it blinded him,
Yeah.
and so I emailed the photos to Bob because Bob can had the only software I knew that to enhance photos at the time. He enhanced it, and there's a face there.
Wow. Could you tell what color it was? And what color were the ones in I forgot to ask you, the picnic rec area? What do you know what color those were? I'm so interested in colors because we've had here in the thumb, we've had like every color of Bigfoot you can imagine. We've had it here in the thumb alone. So what color, if you were able to tell, is Grumpy?
Grumpy, we never actually seen Grumpy.
Okay.
We heard him. I mean, you could tell. I mean, at night you really can't tell because you don't want to turn on the light because if you turn on your lights, flashlights at night, you lose your night vision,
Right.
your
Right.
regular night vision. I mean, you have to wait 30 minutes before you can see back in the dark. I mean, we can see. We do have some kind of vision at night, especially in the
Mm.
woods because people are like, no, 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 it's dark. No, the only reason it makes it look dark is because in the city you have places where it's light and you're looking in the dark area. When everything's dark, it's all dark.
Mm.
But you still can see because of the ambiance light.
Yeah.
That's like in the best time to Bigfoot hunt is in the winter when it snows because everything sticks out like a sore thumb.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Worst time to take footprints is in the snow. But me personally, I mean, I've never found a footprint. Maybe 2 or 3 that I could actually cast, but I don't carry casting material.
Yeah.
It's too much. I gave all that stuff up. Most of the
So
time, I
did
just take. I have my phone and my Flare 1, but I used to carry. When I used to do live broadcast. Actually, the first Bigfoot live broadcast ever. On YouTube, and
awesome.
that actually, if you go back and it should be on YouTube. I'll find it
Okay.
and send you the link.
Yeah,
But
please do.
we actually had one say hello. I think it was Blondie that said hello to us 3 times. But we're
Ooh.
freaking 3 miles in the woods, and this thing's saying hello to us. But I'm jumping kind of ahead of. But anyway, so like I said, I used to carry battery packs and all this stuff out there. Had a wagon pulling. I'm like, why am I carrying all this stuff? I really don't need it. I'm not, if I find something, everybody, you have researchers that'll say, "Oh, that's fake." You have other researchers say, "Oh, that's so cool." But you know, I've seen the Patty Gimlin footprint. Once you see one footprint, you've seen them all.
Yeah, yeah. We did the one. I did the one, and it was so heavy to lug out of the out of the forest up and down hills. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm like
I,
you, dude. I got my phone.
I mean, all you need is a tape measure,
Yep.
and, or something for size. I mean, if you go back and look at my Facebook page, granted, I am not. You can see my freaking photos of footprints with a lighter or a pack of cigarettes right next to them.
Yep. Yep.
Something just to define how big it is. I mean, you don't see in crimes. I mean, in corrections, we never took cast prints. I never heard
Right.
of it. I mean, I never in the crime stories the inmate files, they never said nothing about casting footprints.
Right.
They just take photos of them.
Yep.
So why? I mean, and then having to worry about break. That was really interesting. A lot of people got to see that footprint that lady brought to your show, that the town hall meeting. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was.
Um, but me personally, I just don't. It's an unnecessary expense. And my luck, I'd get out there and I'd freaking fall, and that stuff would spread all over me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
It,
but like I said, I just go out. I find a good spot. I take a lawn chair and I sit down. I've seen people. I chased them. Chased. Oh yeah, we're going to catch this Bigfoot in the woods. No, you're not. I mean, I grew up hunting. I grew up in the woods of Pygmy. I mean, granted, I'm a fat dude, but anyways, nowadays I couldn't catch nothing.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and I don't want to do that. But I mean, I've chased them with with an 18-year-old. Me and an 18-year-old went after a squatch. But we lost him, and I think what he did was he just laid down. Because they just blend in.
Yep.
But it's just how people, you know, like I said, I just sit down. I'm
And
so
that and that's how you get hurt too. And I totally agree with you. I've got a couple of spots I go and I sit. Um, Yeah, it's like you said, you're never going to catch them. I never give exact locations anyways. I may give a general area, but I know you're never going to go out there and catch these things. Maybe you'll find some evidence, but I'm not giving exact locations, and you're never going to catch them. There's no chance. These things are so amazing with their physical capabilities, their durability. It's like you said, and they will. They will outpace you and circle back around you before you even know it. Or like you said, just lay down. A friend of mine, she walked right by one. She figures it was the tree stump. She thought was a big tree stump. She walked right by it, and then she got to her car, and this thing walked behind her car, and she's like, I must have walked right by it. It had to be that big tree stump.
yeah. I mean, so it's you know, I mean, they're out there. I mean, and you're not. They're only going to show themselves when they trust you.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and the next episode we'll get into all the sightings I took, because there's some cool sightings from other different reliable sources. But I figured
Uh-huh.
I'd just make this one about me because you guys got to know. I'm a retired correctional officer, so I have
Yeah.
experience in collecting evidence. You know, I always second guess myself. To this day, some of the sightings I'm like, did I really see that? The only one I know for sure is Blondie. And I kind of not to Brian. Have you ever had anybody tell you about their trail cameras being messing up?
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah, that they don't seem to work when Bigfoot come around. Maybe some kind of electrical disturbance, or they, somehow manipulate the frequencies. Yes, I've heard
So
those stories.
I know you like the Blondie story, so let's get okay. So me and two other researchers were working on a project for a TV show. Um, they they were up north in Mayo, and I was down, and it was going to be like one of those TV shows where, hey, let's go check on Greg, and then flip the video to Greg, whatever. So I had picked out a spot with one of the previous researchers, and he's like, "Yeah, you need to sit here, Greg." I said, "Okay." So I'm sitting there by myself, like 2-3 weeks later, and I got my Ranger about 50 feet from me. I got a little flashlight, and actually a little tactical flashlight, and I got my lawn chair. I'm sitting there. I got a little table. I'm kind of got my phone set up recording. Well, from behind me, which would be north, I hear this Bigfoot scream. A loud scream. I'm like, oh, she's awake. I'm just assuming it was a female. So I said, well, you know what? I'm sitting there and I'm like, let me go get my mag light. I want to see if my mag lights, I'm playing with flashlights like guys like to do. So as I get my mag light out, I'm trying to test which one's brighter, the mag light or the little tactical light. Blondie comes up the hill, walks right past my lawn chair. I wasn't recording at the time, and my phone was on the other side of him, so I wasn't going to go grab my phone because I would have had to charge him. So he walks past 2 trail cameras, brand new trail cameras. Nothing. When I put them up there, each one had one photo on the SD card. Both of them were one of me when I set them up. And this Blondie walked right past them. I mean, Blondie was less than 10 feet from me. So I get home. I'm kind of skipping. I mean, everything just, when it happens, just everything speeds up. It's like, so I'm like, I got to go and I got to go get this footage out of these trail cameras. So I rush home. My girlfriend at the time, Brandon, my kids' mom, was using my laptop for work. So I couldn't even get onto the SD cards for like 3 more hours. So when I finally got them, the DCMI file was correct, was created. The video file was created, and then when I opened the video file, there's nothing. Not even the two, not even the 2 videos that were created when I set them up. I had both SD cards. The SD cards were wiped clear. Besides the DCM file being created and the video file. Everything else was gone. Even the videos of me. And I'm like, holy shit. So I didn't say nothing about that. And then finding Bigfoot, I gotta admit, I did watch some of it. They had an episode where theirs got corrupted. Okay. Well, I talked to another researcher about 6 months later, and he said, yeah. He goes, mine got corrupted. So I don't know what it is, and I heard of a guy out of Texas that his got corrupted too. It was a researcher, a friend of a researcher's. Okay. That told me that one. So I kind of gave up on the trail cameras. Okay. Because every time I hear about the trail cameras, it's always corrupted. Now Bob's got some great footage. Bob Dago. Yep. Actually, look up his there's Bob Dago's interview. He's got the one where the Bigfoot's in the little house throwing stuff out of the house. Okay. If I remember when I get off, I'll send you the link. Perfect. But perfect. Anyways, let's kind of go. Okay, so
how big is Blondie? How so Blondie? You call Blondie that because he's a lighter brownish color, tan.
He's he's tan. He's blonde. Yeah. Okay. And you know what's funny is in the town of Pinckney, which isn't far from there. You know those big statues you can buy like $1,000 carving of a Bigfoot. Yeah. They have one at the nursery that is blonde.
Oh, interesting. From the same
And I
area
didn't
where
notice
Blondie's
that.
at.
I didn't notice that till after I seen Blondie, and it was a couple years afterwards.
Okay. How
So I
tall do you
don't
think
know.
Blondie is?
I say he was probably a good 10 feet.
Oh boy, I didn't. I don't remember you saying that. That's huge.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yeah.
He broad
He
shoulder. What's he look? Is he broad shoulder or more slender? Older, younger?
he's older. Um. I didn't get really didn't pay attention to his shoulders for some reason. He did look back at me. I did see his face.
Okay.
Um,
Human like or ape like? Or
ape like it's similar to the What it reminded me when he looked back was the Patterson Wright video.
okay.
You know, but the whole thing was, I don't know if it's my age, but I don't remember looking at his shoulders because it's kind of I'm the hands to the knees kind of guy.
Okay.
So, but I can't even remember if I even looked. I think I was just so shocked that I had one that close, that big, and he didn't even give a shit about it. I
Wow.
mean, literally, I could have actually ran up and grabbed a hunk of hair out of him because he did not care about me. So, but whatever that female was screaming or that one was screaming is where he was going to. Um, but the area where we have what I call Hello Hill, I think that's where Blondie is. But I've had psychics, and I do. I will get to the woohoo side in a minute, but to say that he's dead, but it's been several years, so. But I've heard they can live up to 80 years old.
Okay. I've heard I'm going to Ohio in 2 weeks. We had to reschedule with Donna Copus, and so I'm so excited to get down there. But off the top of her head, she believes one particular Sasquatch is 150 years old. So, man, all right. Back to Blondie. Is Blondie the one that drank the Mountain Dew, or let's talk about
No,
that for a second?
that was um that was one up in Mile.
Okay.
Um, I went up there one night with these guys, and we went out, and it was their research area, so I can't really say where it's at. It was one time, and there was, and they had been saying because they had been going to the same year after year after year, and they were like, yeah, if you have Mountain Dew, don't leave it out to where they can get to you. They'll drink it. But that being said, um, right before COVID happened, I was waiting for one of my research buddies, and we were in Waterloo, and I was parked in a parking spot, and I had a squatch sitting, literally looking through my Ranger window at me. I was talking to one buddy, my skeptic buddy, and I get shit from Bigfoot researchers. All, you have a friend that doesn't believe in Bigfoot, don't you?
My sons don't, or my oldest son doesn't. He says just what you said. He said, you just believe in Bigfoot, Dad, because you're getting old and looking for something to do when you retire. I'm like, thanks, son.
So, my oldest one doesn't believe, but my middle daughter and my son does. And but yeah, so but we're in. They left the Mountain Dew on the picnic table, and we went out for a hike, and we came out back, and it was half drank.
Wow.
And it's not like it's like a campground. This is 4 miles into the Huron National Forest. So it's not like it's somebody drove up and got out and but yeah, and
That's fantastic.
those guys had some real good interact footage. I mean, One guy was doing a nightly journal, and a freaking Bigfoot came and pushed down his tent while he was filming.
Whoa. Whoa.
Um, we will discuss more to that when we get off the air. That's a phone call
For the
conversation. Okay,
No, that's
so
great, man. That's great. Gosh, I'm so excited to get out there with you and just because, like you and I have talked before, you have been involved in this area for 40 years now. I'm new. Yeah, I'm a YouTube guy and watched all the Bigfoot stuff on YouTube. Patterson Gimlin's what got me into it. Then the $6 Million Man. Um, Gosh, I finally got up here, Greg, a $6 Million Man original doll. So, anyways, I'm all excited about that.
I think be cool.
I'm trying to get the Andre the Giant Bigfoot as well, but they're so expensive. But so, anyways, you've been in this your whole life. So
Yeah.
you help keep me grounded because I do believe in the what you had said it to me. You asked me, you're not one of those woohoos, are you? And I'm like, woo. I'm like, woohoo, what does that mean? He's like, well, you get off on a tangent where you think it's an alien or something like that. And then I'm like, well, okay, Greg, I do have my Christian background, so I do have a tendency. I try to be open minded because really nobody knows what these things are. They could be some form of gigantic. I guess I don't know. But then also, like when you tell me about your game cameras getting corrupted, then my mind starts thinking, well, maybe that is radiation that corrupts the game cameras because they came out of a portal. And all of that thinking has to do with my background, my Christian background. We try to make sense because you know, I love my Christianity, but with all due respect, it's very narrow focused. So
Okay.
learning, go ahead. Just even learning that Bigfoot existed was just a mind blowing type of. And then I had the encounter with the fairy, dude, and you can't talk me out of that one. So then I'm like trying to, okay, how can these things be real? And so you dig into the Bible, you dig into the book of Enoch, you find out, well, maybe these are offspring of the fallen angels and all that kind of stuff. But you like, look at you, you're shaking your head, and I'm totally cool with that. So give it to me, keep my feet on the ground, give it to me what you want
Okay.
to say.
So I'm a Christian. Okay. So I'm like you. Only thing is I don't go to church.
Okay.
Um, but I have my salvation. I'm a Baptist, Southern Baptist. You know, we get drunk on Saturday night and go to church on Sunday morning.
That's so true, man.
So that being said, everybody, some people, Phil Shaw. I don't know if you ever got to meet Phil Shaw.
No,
Uh,
I've heard of them. Hopefully someday.
Actually, he passed away.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. My condolences and forgive me, audience out there. That's right. I forgot. That's West Branch, right? The Bigfoot capital of Michigan, right?
Yes. So he really pushed the Bible and Bigfoot. Um, Me myself, you know, I can't cross Bigfoot into any kind of religion. Um, all I can say is, and I don't believe they're from another world. Why would you come to Michigan and shit in the woods? Pardon my
Okay.
French. I mean, unless they're escaping, uh, you know, an evil creature in their other dimension. Okay, I can understand that, but and plus they're not wearing uniforms. They're freaking naked.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have any clothes. So where's their energy source to open the portals? I mean, unless I missed that in history class, but I didn't think there was any wizards or, you know, they can open portals. Now that being said, I went down the rabbit hole the other night with on TikTok. I think I saved the video, but I seen this couple's They're out of England, and they say they have portals opening up in their house.
Okay.
This portal, he's got a GoPro sitting on his mantle, and he's recording the camera with another camera. So he goes in his introduction, you want to see what it sounds like when it goes through a portal. So, and he goes, here's the footage from this GoPro that dropped through this portal. So it dropped, they show it dropped into the mantle, and then it goes dark. I'm like, okay. And it sounds like the sounds of, hell.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, whatever. Kind of creepy. I'll fast forward it because it make my skin crawl. So, and then it drops out in his bedroom from the ceiling. But miraculously, his wife had went into the bedroom. So all you see is a flash of light, and then he runs in there, and the camera's on the bed.
Okay.
So,
So you're
and
gonna
his wife's already in there. So I'm like, yeah, this has kind of been staged.
so you're gonna
So,
believe what you want to believe is what you're saying.
yes, I mean, but like I said, the portal thing, yes, I have seen Portal. Is what I thought was a portal. I don't know what it was, but there was no Bigfoots coming in and out. I did take a report from a park ranger and a bus driver out in Western Michigan. All they did was they just told me their titles. They didn't tell me what brand, who they worked for, or whatever. So I don't even know if it was a city park, a county park, or because I never did actually physically see them. They just called me up and was telling me. They actually asked me what a baby Bigfoot looked like. They were like, "Does it look like a koala bear?" I know. I said it's probably way bigger than a koala bear if it's walking in by itself.
Oh, for
She goes
sure.
because she goes. We had a koala bear go through a portal. He was there. He come out. He appeared, and then 10 minutes later, we were sitting there. We were still watching him, and then he disappeared. I'm like, well, that was the only case that I actually ever took of a portal per se. I mean, I've seen square, not a portal like a circle portal, but like a window portal.
Hmm.
But in the middle of the woods at night, and it was lit up. But
Yeah.
I,
Well, here's
I
here's here's my thoughts on it. So, you're not alone, and I'm not saying I don't agree with you. I got another guy by the name of Mike Wolf. He's written a book called "A Christian Man's Search for Bigfoot," and he believes how you believe. Now, because I read his book recently, I've reeled it in a bit because um, first of all, number one is we do not want to go down the crazy road. We do not want to start thinking that every bird is a demon. We don't want to
you sure you
fabricate.
don't want to go down Yeah, you sure
Well,
you don't want to go down it? I mean,
no, I
because
don't. You're one of the guys that helps keep me grounded. So I decided I don't want to go too far down that road. I want to be aware, and I get it. We're in the end times, and I can pull out all the Bible scriptures I pull out to maybe support that idea. But this episode, I want to be more grounded and bring up another possibility with you right now. And I got a couple more questions for you.
okay,
So Mike Wolf's written a couple of books, and he helped bring me down to the ground. And I'm like, wait a minute. Now I've had multiple experiences. I'm going to tell you right now, Greg. I saw a fairy in my room. I was wide awake. Nobody can talk me out of that. You can think what you want, think I'm crazy. But growing up, I always had the ghosts. I seen ghosts, all that. So I always correlated everything to the Bible. But here's my thought on Bigfoot. So I'm going to play. People watching this episode are going to be like, "All right, well, he's flipping to the other side now." No, what I'm talking about is we have to be logical about this. First of all, we can't go down the crazy road. So what if there is a Bigfoot creature and it's very biological? It's along the lines like Gigantopithecus. But then we know that ghosts and all that kind of stuff are real and demons and all that as Christians. What if the demons of the dark side is using the Bigfoot subject to blur the lines, to mess with people? And
Well,
that is what I'm thinking. Wait a minute. Once you say you believe in Bigfoot, people portray you in a certain way or they think about you in a certain way. Then you open yourself up and if you don't control the way you think, then you could be susceptible to maybe visions or dreams or demonic influence, and then that takes you down the crazy road. So that's what I'm thinking too. Is I have in the back of my mind, be careful, Brian. These could just be another type of animal. They could be the Neanderthals, and then you've got to be careful with the demonic influence getting you thinking the wrong way. Go
well,
ahead.
let's hold on. Let's kind of go back. Okay, now I never really have put Bigfoot and the Bible together.
Okay.
I'm so they are flesh and blood.
Okay.
They don't have. Now, have I seen some weird shit? Yes. Can I explain some of the stuff I've seen? No. But I think you're right, though. If we actually step back, and I seen some. Okay, hate me if you want to hate me, but I know you had a lot of people from the woohoo side at your town hall.
And the
I respect
okay,
your
so we
belief.
talked about the woohoo. So you mean when you say woohoo, because this is very important to me, because I remember when you first said this to me. You mean those who think that Bigfoot is more of an interdimensional mystic type being, maybe even
Yes,
an alien. Go ahead.
and I actually think what they're actually confusing, and I know when this came about, and I'm not going to mention any names or where it came from. I know the person that started it. I don't know him personally, but I watched this like somebody. It was like somebody threw a rock into the Bigfoot research pool. It just kind of bubbled. You know how the
Yeah,
waves go,
the ripples go out.
the
Yep.
ripple effect. Um, all my I kept myself grounded. Because I was they were trying to pull me in, but
Okay.
luckily I'm not going to get political, but my political views were different than theirs. That's what
Okay.
saved me because they cut all ties with me because of my
Okay.
political view. And
Okay.
I'm not trying to be political, whatever. But I can actually name the person where this came from, and he's
Okay.
writing a book. My honest opinion, this guy is writing a book on how crazy you can make people on any kind of paranormal level. I've never had a Bigfoot,
Whoa.
and if you actually seen some of the researchers, and I've seen some of your researchers that was talking, and those guys were perfectly sane. I mean, I'm not saying they're crazy now, but they believe like I did. Now they're talking. You know, they're portal into my house. They're telling me to
Right.
do this. They're telling me to do that. Honestly, that's either an alien abduction or freaking demons got your butt.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I mean, and with that being said, have I been attacked by demons before? Yes, but you know, when you get weak in your religion, you let's stop talking about religion 'cause people don't, blah blah blah. Anyways,
Well, let me say something real quick. Here's why I fell back on the connection to the Bible is because of the size of the Sasquatch. So then, in my mind, I correlate it to the giants of old, of ancient time, the days of Noah, the Genesis 6 conspiracy, or all of that, because Jesus says in the last days it will be like the days of Noah. So a lot of the thinking comes from, well, there were giants back then, so there's going to be giants nowadays. And where's the proof of that? Well, Bigfoot are huge, you know. They're these big, hairy giants walking through the forest. So that's all I'm going to say. So go ahead.
so let's kind of your religion is good, but I think when people we start let me put my 2 cents in before we go change the subject. When but when we all have our own beliefs. I mean, and I believe a lot of it. You can believe one thing. Look how many different denominations of Christianity there is.
Right.
So if you actually think of scientifically and forget, I'm not saying forget religion, keep it there, keep it as
Hmm.
your grounding. But if you actually look at them as just regular flesh and blood creatures, which we know they are, because there's been numerous reports of them being shot back in the
Sure.
the 30s, 40s, and then the Smithsonian coming and snatching them.
Yep.
Even the
Yep.
Smithsonian actually admitted that they actually threw giant skulls and bodies in the ocean.
Yep.
So we know that was a fact. So,
Yeah.
but that
Abraham
being
Lincoln talked about it. Yep.
so, well, there's a memo that came out 10 years ago that actually they admitted to dumping giant skulls and skeletons in the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah, they actually a memo was actually they actually released a memo. Um,
That's
but
great. That's new information. That's awesome, Greg.
I can't remember
Wow.
what year it came out, but I'm sure you can find it. Um, but actually, the History Channel they did the Finding Giants thing, they had it
Uh,
on their one of their episodes.
oh, fantastic. The two brothers, those guys are great. I'd love to
Yeah.
interview one of them. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm
But
just writing
anyway,
notes.
um, but like I said, so that that would be a good way to go is go with them because that's where I think I seen it. But you know, we know it's flesh and blood. It's like I said, there's been numerous occasions. You know, that's why I could never kill one because I would think I'd be killing a human.
Right.
You
I love
know,
it. I love it.
um, but and it's just the whole you know in my 40 years of research, you know, it's been when we actually could, we're doing it, and everybody's always done by themselves. I mean, I've had a couple of asshole guys, well, this is state land. I don't care if you're coming out or not. We're just letting you know we're going to be there. Dude, come on. It's my research area. I know it's state property, but, it would be nice. Hey, Greg, we're going to go out here. Do you mind if come along with us, come show us your spot, whatever. Oh, no. So a lot of stuff I won't even, well, Picnic Wreck, I don't care because, like I said, there's too many researchers go out there now. And plus, they just put that oil pipeline through there, and
Okay.
I couldn't find any signs. I mean, there's no tree breaks. There's nothing. I mean, nothing new.
But I
Ski
get what
tour.
you're saying. I get what you're saying. Let's talk about that for a second because one of the points of my show is like, look, I love Bigfoot and I'm involved with this, but one of my rules as I got started was if Greg Smith tells me about Blondie, then Greg Smith is going to get the credit for that.
Oh yeah.
You know, I love Val Savala. He has so much information. I would never try to take any of the I mean, so much information. I would never try to take any credit for what Val Savala has told me. And just around, but like what you're saying is there's some people who just wanna it's the fame thing. It's the whole fame promotion. Um, uh and then it's mine and I don't want to share it, so like this group of researchers, you showed them the location and they're like being rude to you and butting you out of it. I think that's terrible. I try to be point blank with people. I try to mention everybody's name, give everybody credit, because when it comes down to it, I'm trying to make a TV show. I'm trying to do a podcast. Why?
Yep.
Number one, because I absolutely love this subject. Yes, I am getting older. I am fascinated by this. Plus, growing my Christianity. I love this. And then I love people on top of it. So I don't want to exclude anyone. I would rather bring people together than exclude anyone. But yeah, so Greg, man, you're fantastic. Now I got one final question for you, and we got to wrap it up because we are over an hour. Um, you have been in this field of research for so long. What are your thoughts about hoaxers? Why? What the heck is that all about? Is that just trying to get fame, or like you said, is it peer pressure? Like some people may have seen a bear, but people want them to say it's a Bigfoot. Does that happen?
It's Okay, it's kind of a little bit okay. You kind of went two subjects at once. Let's start with the fakers. The fakers are just trying to get views on their YouTube channel.
Okay.
Because you know that's the only. I mean, I watched the guy, and I don't know where he's out of, but he used to do take YouTube, and now I think he's on TikTok doing a video. But it's just to get views. It's all it is to get clicks. That's
Gotcha.
all they do it. I mean, you
Yeah.
literally watch a real researcher like me film. It's boring as shit. I did a podcast where with oh, I can't remember. It was somebody out of Virginia. It was a ghost hunting team, and they wanted me to come on, and they wanted me to do a live broadcast from the woods. But they used a shitty ass podcast software, so I had to use my computer. Well, you, in the woods, you ain't going to see nothing with the computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it kind of flopped, and I never got invited. But it's just how where it was going. But anyways, so I mean, one of the women that was on, asking questions. She's like, "Why isn't there anything happening?" I'm like, "Well, because it's raining out. I'm on a freaking laptop, and I got the whole freaking woods lit up like a freaking Christmas tree."
Right.
I says, "Rain doesn't. You can't hear when it rains. You can't hear nothing when it's raining." I said,
Yeah.
"Everything's wet, so it doesn't crunch." Now, for say, okay, let's go to the point of where you think that they see a bear and they think it's a Bigfoot. Well, what I've came into more of, it's a Bigfoot, but they think they don't want to admit to it's a Bigfoot, so it's a bear.
Good
There was
stuff.
a report I took out of this girl's aunt up north. They would have every time they barbecued, her aunt would have to take the grill, the grade or the grease catchings, and set it in the woods so the bear could come lick it off. And she goes, if she doesn't do that, the the bear comes in and picks up the table and stands it upright. I'm like, that's not a bear.
Yeah.
I said a bear, if there's no food, it's not going to get mad. It's just going to move on. And she said this bear does this every time. I said, even in the winter. She goes, yeah. I said, that's not a bear. A bear's hibernating, especially a black bear in Michigan. They don't want to do anything with humans at all. I mean, they hear a human, they're gone the other way.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as so I think it's the opposite of people seeing. They can't comprehend that a 10-foot creature or 8-foot creature monster is living in their backwoods. You know,
Right. It's
um,
too overwhelming, so they process it as a bear. I got you. All right, Greg. Thanks so much, man, for being in this episode number 23. I am so excited to get out into the field with you. And then after we're out in the field and we do your TV pilot series episode, we'll come back into the podcast room and, give you another episode on the podcast show. So thanks so much, Greg. I'm going to put you backstage right now, and I'll talk to you in a moment.
okay, thank you, sir.
All right, everybody. Greg Smith, man, 40 years in the business, the research, Sasquatch, multiple encounters, actually so many that you can't talk about them all. So next up, we're going to get out into the field with Greg. He's going to give us a little bit of teaching. I'm excited to hopefully see Blondie, the 10-foot tan colored Sasquatch. But yeah, so just so excited to talk to Greg. And if you want to get a hold of Greg, just get a hold of him through me. And you can see the email down there scrolling. Get a hold of me at Bigfoots. That's Bigfoots with an S, Bigfoots of America at gmail.com. But to everybody out there listening on Spotify, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, we're also in, Pandora as well. And then, of course, on YouTube, you can see us. So Thanks to everyone out there for listening and watching. And as we always say, stay tuned for more of the Bigfoots of America podcast show.